Now look, I'm not picking on the guy. What I'm doing now is showing how our institutions will actually fight to the death against the truth that's staring them in the face. It's about Bruce Pascoe. Some amazing new developments actually in this scandal, including a very telling letter that this so-called Aboriginal historian wrote in 1993. Very revealing, and yet the ABC still protects this bloke. As I said before, Bruce Pascoe is the best-selling author who looks English but claims he's Aboriginal, a member of at least 3 tribes. And the ABC, a national broadcaster, has helped him to sell his books and helped to sell him himself as an Aboriginal historian in many videos for schools.
My name's Bruce Pascoe and I'm a Yuin Bunurong and Tasmanian man.
Now, being Aboriginal has been very useful for Pascoe. He won the 2016 New South Wales Premier's Award for Best Indigenous Author. He's a professor in an Indigenous Studies Centre of Sydney University. And I believe that being Aboriginal means virtually no critic has dared or even thought to check his most famous book, A Dark Emu, which claims the most amazing thing, that Aborigines were not what Aborigines themselves in histories have always said, hunter-gatherers. He says they were actually farmers living in houses in towns of 1,000 people. Now, when Pascoe says that, he claims he's quoting explorers like Sturt and Mitchell to back up this bizarre theory, or as I'd say, a myth. But as I've shown you here and on my blog and in my columns, this is not true. Neither Sturt nor Mitchell ever saw towns of 1,000 Aborigines. These are just some of Pascoe's many false claims or exaggerations. Now, I've shown you some of them. A website called Dark Emu Exposed has shown more. Pascoe's book, in short, is a crock. Yes, it's a bestseller. Yes, it's about to become a 2-part ABC documentary, but it's still a crock. And so, I believe, are his claims to be Aboriginal. Representatives of each of those 3 tribes he says he belongs to, the Yuin in New South Wales, the Bunurong in Victoria and the Tasmanians, they say he is not Aboriginal. And so do genealogical records like this, which seem to show that every single one of Pascoe's ancestors is of English descent. Now, again, I've given you this evidence before. Go to my blog. And Bruce Pascoe still won't answer my questions or come on the show. 2 weeks ago, though, he did tell a friendly interviewer he really was Aboriginal and had proof, but he wouldn't show it.
I've always said that my Aboriginal heritage is a distant one, but I've got birth certificates to confirm it. I'm not going to engage at such a petty level.
There's now one very telling development dug up this week by Dark Emu Exposed. Pascoe this year told the Australian newspaper he'd fully identified as Aboriginal when he was 40, which means the late 1980s. But it turns out that even in 1993 he still didn't know much at all about his Aboriginality. So he wrote this letter to the Courier Mail, asking for help to track down a great-grandmother called Sarah Matthews that he thought was Aboriginal. Pascoe wrote, "I have been looking for my Courier family for a number of years, without much success. My great-grandmother, Sarah Matthews, was born at Dudley, South Gippsland. Sarah Matthews may have come to South Gippsland on a sealing vessel." And Pascoe also said that his great-grandmother lived at Pleasant Creek. Well, now a genealogist, Jean Holland, has tracked down the marriage register at Pleasant Creek, and in 1874, the entry there you find Sarah Matthews, and next to her name, her birthplace. Not Dudley, Victoria, but Dudley, London. And she didn't get to Victoria on a sealing boat, but on the British ship Burlington with a family, landing in Fremantle, as the ship records show. Now again, I say maybe there's a mistake here, but so far I've not seen a skerrick of evidence for Pascoe's claims as Aboriginal. But here's the real point. How have our institutions reacted to all this? Now, history that makes false claims, written by a white claiming to be Aboriginal against all the public evidence. Well, let me show you how little truth matters to the institutions that you would think are dedicated to upholding it. The ABC, media organisation, is still backing Pascoe, still going ahead with their documentary starring him and his crackpot theory. In fact, no fewer than 8 ABC staff have now defended Pascoe and or abused me. They include stars like Virginia Trioli and Wendy Harmer up the top left and Benjamin Law, etc., etc. But they also include the head of ABC Life, a whole department, and more concerningly, bottom right, the head of the ABC's Education Unit, Annabel Asprey. But this willful blindness doesn't just stop there. The newspapers of the Nine Group, like the Melbourne Age, they won't report this Pascoe controversy. TV stations won't touch it. And 3 weeks after I first reported the trouble with Pascoe, the Human Rights Commission backed him by awarding Professor Bruce Pascoe its Human Rights Medal for challenging the widespread belief that Aboriginal Australians were hunter-gatherers. It's actually given him its top medal for attacking the truth with his myth. That's your Human Rights Commission. And of course, all these organisations, you have to ask, if they won't acknowledge these facts, what other falsehoods will they shamelessly tell?